So I recently got into Gunpla. As to why I've gone into Weeb Lego, well, there are a few reasons. While I've never been a fan of the Gundam franchise, I've always been into the aesthetics of them. There's an aura of nostalgia that emanates from the image of the original RX-78-2 mobile suit, which is strange given I was born in 2002 when Gundam first made its appearance in the Jurassic period. I like how Gundam look retro in the way they exemplify just how people in the past believe the future would look like. Gunpla is a portmanteau of Gundam plastic model, and what sets them apart from most other toys and collectibles is exactly that. You have to build them yourself. Inside the box is a series of plastic sprues. These frames contain all the parts that snap together after freeing them from their polystyrene prisons. At the bottom of the box sits a step-by-step instruction manual that conveys all its directions through pictures. It even has helpful little signs that tell you what not to do. You'd have to be an absolute idiot to ignore one of these.
Would you allow that? And they went, look, if you can get the talking points into the video, go right ahead. And I made a couple ads for them that I thought were pretty fun.
I love this nifty booklet because it legitimately tells you what to do and how exactly to do it, keeping you on the right path to getting a 1/44th scale model of a Zaku 2 in your hands by the end, as long as you follow the steps. That said, anyone who enjoys Gunpla knows that holding the final product in your hands is only a fraction of the fun. There truly is something to be said about the fulfillment that creating something gives you. It's an innately human desire to want to make something with your hands. It's what kept us going all these years. Creation, in all of its forms. All that's why I've taken a liking to these little kits. But admittedly, there's more to it. It was around this time 2 years ago when the first series of lockdowns came. I was at a coffee shop when the proclamation happened. It was the weekend of my birthday. I hadn't the faintest idea that it would be a long while before I would be able to step out onto the world like that again. I hadn't the slightest inkling that when I finally did get to take that step outside, it would be on ground I wouldn't recognize. I don't think any of us have a clear view of what the future could look like. None of us even knew what to expect of the first week of quarantine. These last 2 years remain evidence of all that, and there's certainly not enough comfort to be found in the unknown to give us the strength to run fearlessly into it. Everything that followed was, in every sense of the word, unprecedented. This generation had yet to face such a moment that was both historic and universal in its being historic. We were raised in a world that was entwined in fiber optics, wrapped around information, interconnected in instant communication. And then all of a sudden, the generation of scene zones and FaceTime had to rely on their communicative creature comforts. Now, more than ever. With our eyes staring at our black mirrors, we realized just how empty feeling the void always was, and what was now missing to keep it from sucking us in. None of us knew how to live without each other, relishing in the joys of a world no longer with us. We searched for answers, a sign things were going to get better, but it's tough to learn from history still being written. And with all the time in the world, and all the solitude one could ask for, we had nothing to accompany us but a digital pastiche of those we know, and ourselves. When one has nothing to do, their mind is left to wander. I too found myself traveling in the deserts of my mind and found that what looked to be potable springs were really just mirages, as I've always feared. Creative blocks are a thing, yes, and some of the best creators still go through it. I, on the other hand, came to the conclusion that it was less a block and more so a dam of my own construction. This time last year, I was relying on the leaks in this barrier to keep myself sane. I was searching for something, anything, to prove I'm capable of what I hoped I was capable of. But then I got back into bad habits of capturing the glimmer of inspiration in my hands only to let it die of hunger in a cage locked behind my own inferiority. As my hands ached to do, my mind raced to ask, my insecurity jumped to keep them locked. On the bright side, I at least get to scoff at the irony of going through a mental civil war on the daily over an impotent mind palace. All that's there are words unwritten, scenes unshot, thoughts kept to myself. A year has passed since I made anything to completion, and I've still got nothing to show for it. It eats away at me every day and keeps me in an unending cycle of dissatisfaction. But after 5 hours and a couple of nail files later, at least I got this cool green robot that I can put on a shelf and tell myself, hey, I made that. Good day to you all. And if I don't see you tomorrow, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.